is 2010, a time when the rumor of a new Pokemon game sent shivers of excitement through children and man-children no matter where you were in the world, instead of today's fear on how they'll somehow create a game that will run worse than the last. Surely after the groundbreaking success of their newest game, Diamond and Pearl, Game Freak will play it safe and make a similar game to Sinnoh, right? The Pokedex number is getting bigger and bigger, and the team is getting worried that the vision of Pokemon has ever so been changing, evolving even, into an unclear vision ever since the release of Gold and Silver, and what preceded after it was the best Pokemon game ever conceived, Pokemon Black and White. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Matthew Hayes, and welcome to the first episode of Time Well Spent, a series taking a closer look at video game design, and today we're playing Pokemon Black and White, seeing if its much needed refreshing reset in the series all the way back in 2010 still holds up today. Let's begin. I'll be the first to admit this video should have came out at most in February, but I got busy. This entire playthrough was played and recorded through the Desmoon emulator on a pirated copy of Pokemon Black. The moment I launched the game, I was reminded that this one actually tried with its story. Well, for Pokemon standards. Unlike any other Pokemon opening, Black and White's put greater emphasis on telling its story before introducing new gameplay features in this region. I picked the boy character because as much as I prefer Hildesvit over Hilbert's, I'm not interested in playing as a 10-year-old girl unlike many other Pokemon fans. Name myself Hayes and introduced to our two best friends, Charon and Bianca. They can't be more different from each other. Charon is a difficult person to talk to, but is an honest person at the end of the day. Bianca isn't really all there in the head, but she's lovely to be around. She's a super nice person. Just extremely blonde. You might be wondering why I didn't get to name my rival something like Assface. That's because Pokemon Black and White is so narrative driven that there are essential rival names in the story. Yeah, you heard me. The bare minimum. Professor Juniper speaks about one more thing before setting us on our journey. During your journey, you will meet many Pokemon and people with different personalities and points of view. This will be important later. Remember it. We get a sky view of our glorious half three-dimensional town and are taken to our bedroom where our friend Charon and I are waiting for Bianca. Classic Bianca. Turns out why we're waiting for her is because today is the day we receive our very first Pokemon. In other words, our starter. This is the most important decision a 10-year-old can make, and let me tell you, we are in no short supply of amazing choices. First up, Tepig, the fire-fighting type pig that evolves into a giant macho fighter that has some of the hardest hitting physical attacks in the entire game. Second up, Oshawott, the best one, an adorable sea otter that turns into a samurai. Third, last but least, Snivy. I'll keep it real here. I've only chose Snivy once and had an okay time with the guy. However, its evolution is arguably Game Freak's strangest and least conventional, and I don't think he gets the respect he deserves. The guy has no legs, cut him some slack. I finally decide on Oshawott. We agree to battle in my room, instantly bringing down the resale value. I'm sorry, mother. I'm up first, and our opponent is Bianca. She'll always pick the starter weaker to you, and Charon will pick the stronger. Pokemon Black and White is a turn-based game with three main types of attacking: damage, buffs, and status moves. Every starter begins with one attack and one buff move that have near equal power to the other starter options. Opening your bag for medical supplies, selecting Pokeballs, switching out your attacker, or even running away from the fight are all things you can do other than battling during your turn. In casual Pokemon playthroughs, it's known that just attacking every turn without needing to debuff your opponent will win you the first fight 9 times out of 10. Unless your starter has a low defense nature. Okay, so Pokemon natures are a stat change assigned to every single Pokemon that affects its combat capabilities. For example, my Oshawott was assigned the hasty nature, which raises its speed but lowers my defense, which is why Bianca's Tepig rocked my shit. Out of the 25 natures your Pokemon can acquire, chances are it won't perfectly suit your needs. After that embarrassing first loss, Charon wants to pick on the loser as well. I suppose I could talk about Trainer AI while we steamroll. Trainer AI is a long, complicated thing, and I feel like we're already learning too much too quick, but it comes down to this. If the person you're fighting isn't marked as an expert trainer, the move used will be entirely random. This includes any wild Pokemon you'll encounter as well. That's why battles like the Elite Four, Rivals, and Gym battles may have good team composition, but their strength also comes from having the program knowledge to kick your ass through the power of math and programming. Fun little fact for you. No trainer in Diamond and Pearl is considered an expert trainer, not even Cynthia. I guess it was just an issue that they I fucking hate Gen 4. We make our way to the lab and get to name our starter. Considering he made me look like a fool in front of my friends, his permanent name will be Failure. The professor gives us our Pokedex, a device that captures data of Pokemon we see and catch along our journey. We take our first steps on Route 1 together, which I think is a very cute detail. Hold on, what was that? Did I just hear you ask for an unskippable catching tutorial? No? Not too bad. Every one of these goddamn Pokemon games have the infamous catching tutorial that you can never skip. It'd be nice if there was an option to tell the professor that, like, you just want to learn by yourself. It's a small thing, but it just hurts to sit through every time. Even on Route 1, you can tell Game Freak knows the DS hardware limits by now. The details of wheat flying through the air with all the pixel art animated is gorgeous, and I'd go as far as to say Pokemon Black and White have the best looking pixel art of any video game. Tall grass is where Pokemon are hiding waiting to battle. Every step you take rolls a chance of one to appear, which creates some unfortunate streaks of never-ending battles with Woobats and Roggenrola. My first encounter is a Lillipup, so I grabbed the little guy, and maybe you've noticed by now, but the Pokemon sprites are animated. Not just moving around the screen simulating a creature idling like the last couple games. No, fully animated sprites. The moving sprites brings life and personality into each creature and makes me want to find them all because I gotta know what the candle does. It's not just creatures too. Important trainers have their own little intro sprite animations when setting out their Pokemon, and it gets better in Black and White too, with every trainer having full animated sprite work done. But we're not talking about that game, are we now? Game Freak is really good at creating reasoning and rewards for coming back to previous areas in their games. By creating a lake that is blocking you from getting a rare looking item, it encourages you to get that move that lets you travel over water, and guess what? After a few hours of playing it, it's now an easy item to get because you worked for it. There were dozens of moments I wrote things down to come back to because I was genuinely curious on what the item may be. This lady in the grass gives me a potion to heal my Pokemon with, creating a habit for me to speak with everyone I can find for possible rewards. We arrive in a Cumula town to another unskippable tutorial. Awesome! We step outside to see people gathering in this depressing gray town to find a dude named Getis, in a sick robe, preaching about how it's wrong for Pokemon to be used for battle, and how this will let Pokemon and humans be true equals to each other. Which, by Pokemon standards, that's really interesting. that's an interesting plot. This twink named N starts talking to Sharon and I about how he can hear Pokemon talking to us. I can't remember battling the twink because I was distracted by the beautiful melody in my ear. Listen to this. Black and White has the best soundtrack in any Pokemon game ever. Holy shit! Failure just died. On a 2 HP clutch, Blunder won us the fight. I should have chose Tepig. I checked Blunder's nature after a beautiful display of honor in our last fight and noticed the awful nature given to this guy. It's like being born with a beautiful face, but you got no arms. I came across this 2-man band. I talked to him and my interaction changes the music. Not only that it's a neat thing to add that makes the location more memorable, it again teaches the player to enter houses just to find more things. It's awesome, it's genius. Route 2 begins with getting a call from our mother saying she needs to talk to us. Naturally hanging up the phone. She runs over from our house in record pace and gives us our running shoes, making us able to sprint. I believe this was done on purpose at a very specific point in the game. If the running shoes were given from the start, they would have given me the habit of running to the next town without even thinking about stopping to the people and learning that crucial part of the game. Because why stop and talk to the lady over there when there's a full route of Pokemon a jog away? This potion on the ground is laid out in full view so anyone who misses it did it on purpose, teaching players Pokeball on the ground equals useful item. I decided to take the risk of an optional battle or two to reach this pathway up to an item previously foreshadowed on the back of a Cumula town. I have a gut feeling a rival battle is coming. Fuck. Bianca throws her dog and pig at me and failure takes care of both. This might be his redemption arc, we'll see. We arrive at Striation City, stupid name, to find a very suspicious man in front of an important looking building. Tells us there's a good chance the gym leader is at the training school. I head to the construction site named the Dream Yard, and this child insists that she should give me her Pokemon because hers is a fire type to cover my water weakness starter. Okay, Pokemon types are a more complicated game of rock, paper, scissors. Every type has one or more weaknesses that do double damage. Some do more than double because of dual typing, some do 0 because of immunity. The main 3 we'll have to worry about for the first gym are fire, water, and grass. Pansear is known to be one of the weakest Generation 5 Pokemon, but this doesn't mean we won't get any use out of this guy. I turned back to the trainer school because of a conveniently planted tree blocking my way. I hope I can cut it down sometime soon. I burst into the door only to find Sharon waiting to battle me, and because he's a prick, he wants to use items. This battle can be your first real loss if you aren't leveled up enough or haven't found the monkey. Since I went adventuring finding items and new Pokemon on my own, the fight was a cakewalk with my fire move absolutely destroying Sharon Snivy. The gym leader greets us outside saying we need to prepare for some strong grass type Pokemon coming up. This gym teaches you type matchups while gauging your power level with the trainers before the gym leader. It's really useful, especially for younger fans that don't have the Black and White wiki pulled up on their second monitor at all times. Oh, the trainer's Pokemon is level 11. The gym leader should be a few levels higher than the employees. It's genius. Killin, the guy I have to fight because I chose the water starter, sends a level 12 Lillipup out and has his level 14 Pansage in the back, but don't tell anyone I told you that. In blunder fashion, he strikes Killin's Pansage, delivering the final blow, securing our first badge and TM in the Unova region. Game Freak knew a kid would try to get their friend to trade them a level 100 legendary to beat the game with, but without all 8 badges, you'll have a very disobedient Kyrim not taking orders from you. Some lady gives us the HM cut. It enables us to slice through those inconveniently planted trees. HMs are field moves. Example of these are surfing over water, cutting down trees, and smashing rocks in your way. HMs are unlimited, you can put them on any Pokemon that can learn them, but TMs are usually limited. Route 3 is next with our first look at the daycare system. Every step you take in Unova, 1 experience point will be transferred to the Pokemon you leave in the daycare. The more experience that the Pokemon receives, the higher the prices to take out. You might think to just run back and forth for a few hours while watching your favorite TV show, and you get a really strong pat rat, right? Here's the catch. The Pokemon's moves are automatically replaced when leveling up, making the Pokemon that sit in the daycare not super useful for battling. This is the reason why I never use the daycare. It's never optimal for me, but for sure in the post game when you're trying to complete your Pokedex, it's super useful. Double battles are for sure a thing. In all honesty, I'm just not a huge fan of them, cluttering the screen, making battles take longer than they need to, but it is an entire new layer of strategy, especially when you're against a real person in competitive Pokemon. It goes from rock, paper, scissors to at least checkers. We're informed that Team Plasma stole its child's Pokemon and headed into Wellspring Cave. After taking down the 2 guys, Failure evolves. Dewott is like the only middle stage starter that actually looks good in my opinion. He's so cute. He's just like standing on 2 legs. He's not on 4 yet. After beating like 4 more evil grown adults, I wonder why Team Plasma doesn't start curb stomping Sharon. Because let's face it, I want to as well. I spent the next hour of my life in Wellspring Cave tracking down one of the best Pokemon Generation 5, Drillbur. I run around a lot to find these dust clouds that only appear when you're randomly running, so it's a really fun, awesome system. But have you noticed something? Where are the Geodudes? The Zubats. Generation 5's biggest controversy was to remove all older Pokemon until the post-game of Pokemon Black and White.
The most controversial thing with this game when it came out is that you had no access to the old Pokemon. I think that's one of the best decisions they've ever made with a Pokemon game. Here's the way I look at it. And suppose your favorite Pokemon is Gengar. Gen 1, you used a Gengar. Gen 2, you used a Gengar. Gen 3, you used a Gengar. Gen 4, you used a Gengar. Gen 5, you could not. And your Pokemon team is actually going to be a bit more distinct and interesting because of that.
And I'm not here to tell you this was a perfect or terrible decision, but I'll tell you this. Playing through Black and White for the first time, seeing only new Pokemon around me, gave me the feeling of playing my first Pokemon game, Fire Red. See what you will about the design choices of some Pokemon. Game Freak for sure went quantity over quality, but again, they're all new. I finally find my godforsaken Drillbur and name the chick Vanity. She has the worst nature a Drillbur could have, so that made me sad. I continue down Route 3 until Charon stops to inform me about a darker type of grass. He says some Pokemon are exclusive to the dark grass and stay there and can even form a double battle. It adds layers by challenging the player to gain more experience at the risk of taking on 2 Pokemon at once, all optionally. I noticed this reflection detail in the water, which I thought was a cool little touch. You know, we'll see how like that. Okay, so I don't really know how to say the name of the city. I wrote it down a bunch in the script, obviously, but I never like said it out loud. And I looked up how to pronounce it, and I'm not saying that.
While in American English, it's generally pronounced as Naker.
Nakreen City, the home of the normal type gym leader Lenora. This place might be the second thing I think of when someone says Unova because of its architectural reusage of these warehouses for livable homes. I had to pinwheel Forest before taking on the gym to level up a bit. While grinding, I noticed a strong level difference in my team. Since your starter is given to you at level 5 with just downright better stats than any other Pokemon you'll find for a good while, it's easy to only use your starter, especially after evolving so early. After spending more time leveling up, I head to the gym to only be stopped by the Twink talking about how he wants to see the things that no one else can see and wants to learn the ideals of Pokemon inside Pokeballs. I do not care. There was a bird and tadpole at me, so it was a tough fight. We enter the museum, which doubles as this town's gym, and that's awesome. I get told to do this bookshelf puzzle, which is not awesome. Holy shit, she's black. That's right, I forgot to mention the Unova region is based off New York, the almost capital of the United States. Remember that quote from the professor I told you that was going to be important later? Doesn't that sound like the ideal New York? But in the real city, instead of vastly different personalities, you get vastly different ways to tweak your shit on the subway. However, I'll give some criticism here, not about the black lady, that's okay. Team Plasma has nothing to do with the American aesthetic. Almost a medieval faction, with them having a king, castles, spoilers, and dragons. It feels more English than anything. They're literally knights, you know? Like, that doesn't make sense. Lenora sends her deer out, which was a simple feat, but this bastard was a different story. Watchdog has this awesome move called Retaliate, which doubles its attack power from 70 to 140 if an ally was fainted the previous turn. With Retaliate and Hypnosis putting Failure to sleep, he's out of the battle. No other Pokemon on my team is near the level of this Watchdog, which means I blacked out. This blackout could have been avoided if I leveled up my other Pokemon, but that doesn't change the fact that I was playing and it was working for me and taught me a bad habit to only use my starter. I'm glad this is a good difficulty spike to learn early on that it is not the way to play. After a long battle with items involved, the second gym badge is ours. My victory is interrupted by Lenora's husband yelling about how Team Plasma are here. Since I'm the nearest 10-year-old, not doing anything at the moment, I'm tasked to find the fossils Team Plasma stole with Berg, the third gym leader. Inside Pinwheel Forest, I find an onslaught of random trainers, Team Plasma members, and random bug Pokemon in the wild. But ladies and gentlemen, this is the most important part of our journey because it is where we find the greatest Pokemon to ever grace the capital lands of Unova. Do I even need to explain how perfect Whimsicott is? If you couldn't tell, this guy's my favorite. Whimsicott does not really have great stats at all, but with an exception of high speed. Pair that up with its ability Prankster, which makes status moves always go before the opponents, and you have a machine on your hands. I never covered abilities. Let's talk about it. Abilities provide a passive effect in or out of battle. A Pokemon can have one ability at a time, but could have the option for a few. They are also randomized like Nature's and can be a pain to try to min-max your team's stats with. I finally reached the last Team Plasma member that has the Dragonite Skull, and he agrees to give it back for some reason. I think I beat him. Exiting Pinwheel Forest treats us with an impressive perspective of the bridge coming up. It may not look too crazy nowadays, but this on the original DS is a pretty cool sight to see on the system so small. I'm starting to notice by now how like my brain defaults to talk to anyone around me because I know there's going to be a good chance of a reward. Skynarrow Bridge was and still a technological feat for the DS, invoking the grand size and diverse types of lives lived in the region. Cars and semis zooming under the bridge, sightseeing boat tours, photographers on the bridge capturing photos that convey emotion and tell stories of people and Pokemon. Do I even need to say anything about the music? Ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the biggest city in Unova. The grand place this region has to offer. Castella City. This place is still big enough to get lost in on your first playthrough. Every building you run by has a unique purpose to serve, whether that be a shop to buy things, a battle company to test your strength and earn rewards, or even a back alley milk shop. Yeah, it's alcohol. I feel I've said this so many times, but Black and White blew people's expectations away on how grand a Pokemon game could be on that little 2-screen device. Dozens of people walking through the streets give perspective of all life in the city by seeing everyone's commute. Imagine living in the Pokemon universe and still having a 9 to 5. That would be insane. I finally find myself at Berg's gym when all of a sudden Team Plasma conveniently has to show up on the other side of town. I rush to the dock, learning that this girl's Pokemon was also stolen, and have to chase after the Team Plasma member again. I'm stopped right before the gym and have to enter a building to fight another Team Plasma member. Some parts of these little Team Plasma disputes could happen way quicker than the pace presented here, and told through NPCs in the town, telling their stories of encountering Team Plasma. That'd be so much more interesting. It's optional, out of the way, but it's still there. Geddes yaps about what he's doing is good, and we're the bad guys for not letting our Pokemon be stolen. Real cool stuff. He goes away. Awesome. I wanted to see how linear the game would get if I skipped the gym leader in Castella City, and to my surprise, I could explore a good 5 feet ahead. In Route 4, I met with sand blowing across my screen and construction workers. Truly Chicago. I figured since the next gym leader is a bug type, I should get a new fire type Pokemon because the monkey is not cutting it this time. I use a combination of the moves Leech Seed, Stun Spore, and Mega Drain to keep a constant stream of health coming to me. Leech Seed drains an eighth of the opponent's health at the end of the turn and gives that stolen health to me. Stun Spore paralyzes Wubble, creating a 1 in 4 chance to lose his turn, all while I'm spamming Mega Drain, a low damage grass type move, but also works exactly like Leech Seed. Last Pokemon up is Berg's Livani. Even with the level difference and lucky crit, Agony one-shots him with a Fire Punch. Third gym badge is ours. Alright, it's time I talk bad about Unova, specifically Route 4. Arguably the first bad route of the game. Charon, got you too. This rival battle introduces weather effects. What an awesome mechanic. No, but being serious, having a rival battle teach you how sandstorms work, the most common weather effect, is a smart decision. Change is often scary, so when a new gameplay mechanic is introduced, a familiar opponent eases you into the new mechanic. For real this time, I'm going to talk bad about Route 4. With an off-putting color palette, little to no exploration items or rewards to find, lack of Pokemon variety, and no notable NPCs, it's a lacking area in the game, especially after the biggest Pokemon location ever made up to that point. It just feels unfinished. I'm not sure if this was Game Freak's sick joke about how American construction takes an eternity to complete, or just ran out of time to put anything of substance here. I don't appreciate it. I was about to enter the desert resort, but then I just didn't want to. This route taught me that the desert area is boring with nothing to find, and I'm fair to assume that the other desert area connected won't be much better. If your video game level creates a bad first impression, adventuring to the second secret zone into more bland game design doesn't sound like a good time, even if that area has way more to do, full of items and new enemies to explore because of that broken trust. Pokemon is a stupidly simple RPG, and if the consistency of fun, vibrant areas full of interesting monsters to collect and wacky people to talk to is broken, all you'll have is a mediocre RPG with no reason to keep playing it. Immediately entering Nimbasa City, we're met with 2 Plasma members trying to steal this old guy's Pokemon who runs the daycare. I don't know why Team Plasma members only have Patrats and Purloins. Maybe Geddes was hit with some new Novan tariffs, but the older guy thanks us by giving us his bike. So in light of this massive milestone in our journey, I decided to shake down the locals for a Sunstone. Certain elemental stones used on a select few Pokemon evolved them instead of leveling. With that, we have the MVP of the team, Calamity the Whimsicott. Alessa is waiting for us in her gym. Before I make it there, the twink once again stops me. He insists about taking me on a little Ferris wheel date. That's cute, and I say why the hell not, because he's only 10 years older. He bluntly tells me he's the king of Team Plasma, and he's helping Geddes save all Pokemon. His speech reveals conflicting thoughts in his head. If stealing Pokemon is the way to save them, why can't I hear the Pokemon that love their trainers? While battling the twink, I noticed something about his team. They're all different. Every single time I've been battling him, he's been using different Pokemon that have been mistreated by humans and releasing them after battling me. The puzzle involves bright neon roller coasters, each one taking you closer to the gym leader herself. Other than revealing what level you should be around, the gym leaders also reveal the Pokemon the leader will use. I assumed every one of Alessa's Pokemon could be one-shotted by Vanity's Dig, but that simply is not going to work. We need a rock-type move for 4 times damage. You could argue showing a Mogul off from the start ruins the surprise with a flying type will let your gym leader's ace, but at the end of the day, this game's for kids and should always be teaching, not throwing surprises. Alessa sends the flying prick out first, but we've prepared for this contingency. Since Black and White only uses new Unovan Pokemon, they could only fit like 2 unique electric types in the battle, which is the most Johto thing I've ever seen. The ace of this fight is Zebstrika, which went down after 1 dig, and was honestly a little underwhelmed by the gym fight. I'm sure in the next few games they'll shake up the formula, it's okay. Route 5 begins with another battle from Charon, an easy feat likely because of his shit team. We beat the champion of Unova, Alder, and he spouts some champion truth to Charon. This route is lacking in the exploration items to find, but it makes up with it for its interesting Pokemon decisions. Say what you will about Trubbish, I'm not here to defend or make fun of the guy, but what I will say is that there's a bigger offense made in this route. Gothita. Who the fuck had the best idea for a Pokemon ever and cooked this shit up? An actual good-looking Gothic Pokemon would have made so much sense with it being American and all, but no, they decided to let the intern design the Goths. Now we're stuck with this 3-stage shitty evolution line. What is going on here? Don't get me started when this thing evolves. Level 41, really get real. I was so pissed I took a water break. Alessa opens the Driftvale drawbridge for us and the route is over. I often critique each route or location with how much there is to find, battle, and do, but Driftvale Drawbridge doesn't need any of that. It's a place to take a break after a long 4 gym badges. Pokemon is filled with quick music that keeps the pace and mood of the adventure going smoothly, but places like these are an important pit stop to decompress. Okay, back to it. We arrive at Driftvale City, greeted by Clay, the 5th gym leader. He tells us children that the terrorists causing terrorism are our problem to solve. The cold storage homes an assortment of Pokemon such as Herdier, Timber, and Vanillite. Seemingly random Pokemon placement feels like a half-baked afterthought. I'd like you to meet Charles the Biker. He's the inventor of the rotation battle mechanic. Let's learn together, shall we? Rotation battle consists of 3 Pokemon outside their Pokeballs all at once. The player has the option to rotate in the very same turn as attacking, unlike Generation 3's double battle mechanic. But what if I told you if you chose to play Pokemon White, instead of battling rotating battles, you participate in triple battles, which are a whole other beast. There are only a total of 5 of these unique battles in the entire playthrough. One criticism I can give this version of battling is the screen is filled with health bars, names, and buttons that can be overwhelming the first time. This mechanic never came back, a franchise staple that Game Freak loves to do. I'm not sure whether it's because of the 3DS hardware limitations or the rush development, but the next generation didn't get to see the beauty of a rotation battle. I mean, for Christ's sakes, look at the 3DS when there's 4 Pokemon on the screen. How could 6 ever work? Even if this new battle mechanic was only beginning, Game Freak's twist to make this a version difference is pretty neat if you can get behind the scummy business practice. When battling in the cold storage, I noticed a staggering level difference between me and the employees. This is a sign of two things that could be happening. The cold storage isn't leveled correctly, or the game has been again letting me use my starter the whole time without any consequence or challenge. I believe it's a mixture of both. These trainers should be a level or two higher, preparing me for an actual battle. However, I should be leveling up my other guys in case my glass cannon of one viable team member shatters in front of Clay. Jaren and I beat the shit out of one of the Team Plasma employees and head to the gym because that's the only reason we're in this underbaked town. Clay is angry that Geddes is trying to remove the Second Amendment, yelling at him in his southern accent. The translation team did a really good job here because I just have such a clear vision of Clay's voice in my head. I'm imagining Ennis Del Mar from the hit movie Brokeback Mountain, but just without as much gay sex. Can you tell I've lost interest in the game story? We enter the gym to fight the required trainers before Clay, and would you look at that? The trainers' Pokemon are level 28, jumping from cold storage's trainers at level 24. It's too big of a level jump for how little there is to do in the time between the cold storage and the gym. It's literally a 5-minute gap at most. A lucky Scald Burn defeats Excadrill in one turn, and this Palpitoad gave me a weirdly hard time to defeat. I had an inflated ego apparently after beating Clay's Excadrill that I forgot about his real ace, the Frog. That's the 5th gym badge collected. Fun fact about Blondie's rival fights. Her elemental monkey changes based on what starter you chose, which I think is a neat thing. She was the easiest fight in the entire game. Can't be too mad at Blondie though, because she gives us the HM Fly, which allows us to fast travel to any location as long as we have a Pokemon able to learn it. Okay. I always found it weird that of all people, Blondie was the one that gave us the Fly HM. Like, where did she get this? Route 6 might be the most okay route yet. Decently viable Pokemon to catch, a good amount of traders to battle, and the mysterious cave to come back to when you get the Surf HM. But I wasn't feeling the strive to keep venturing. There just isn't many interesting or helpful items to find on these routes because you already have enough money to buy all the potions you need up until this point. Back on Route 2, finding a spare Great Ball meant that catching that Drillbur would be that much easier. There's no excuse anymore just to find the simple linear paths guiding the player because it's not the beginning anymore. Maybe it's because I was averaging 4 hours a day on Pokemon, but the feeling of burnout was hitting pretty hard past the halfway mark when I realized how linear the routes were getting. I was starting to realize what the critics of Unova were talking about when they were talking about the linearity. This hiker sums it up perfectly. My complaint about Charged Cave is the encounter rate. I'm playing on an emulator, so the speed up saved days of wasted time, but there is still a core issue of the game design nonetheless. It's not just this cave. Every Pokemon cave in the series has this problem, and I do appreciate the lack of them in Unova. Sometimes it takes the bad to see the good. Though unlike other Pokemon caves, this one visually stands out by a wide margin. The prismatic floating sapphire crystals illuminating the cave with its blue electricity are very pretty. The Pokemon found in here are mostly electric types and some steel. I named this Tynamo Pollution, misspelled, and instantly got thrown into a battle with its comedic timing. I'm questioning why Team Plasma still insists on using these Watchdogs and Lipards. There are clearly more Pokemon in this world. One last fight with the Twink and we are out of this place. Oh my god, do you hear that amazing music? We must be in Mistralian City. Once again, the gym leader of this town, Skyla, greets us at the entrance and tells us she saw a sick Pokemon on top of Celestial Tower and is going to investigate what's going on. I changed Pollution's name at Castella City to Vengeance because I'd imagine he's got it out for me now. Route 7 is by far the most creative we've seen and so far checks all the boxes, but I do have one tiny criticism. Where in America is this supposed to be? I appreciate Game Freak's step outside of the usual Japan setting, but plank balancing and clowns are not the way to go at it. And this isn't a personal attack on Route 7. If you like Route 7, it's all power to you, you know? But the entire world building is akin to England more than New York. I've been really negative recently, so let's talk about some good. The animation of the character balancing on the beam is so charming. The way he moves. His name is Hilbert. He's a great guy. He's so cool. It makes me wish for more character expression from Hilbert and Hilda. Creating a blank slate protagonist is important for self-expression through imagination, but a few more of these details, such as being out of breath after a long bike ride, or some facial expressions when finding an item or beating a gym could be a nice little detail. Speaking of the beams, it offers a clear skip of the challenging multiple trainers hiding, waiting for you to take one wrong step. Do I even need to mention the exploration rewards? You've watched this long, you know how important they are. We'll find rotation battles on Route 4, this one being much easier than the first, and just reminds me of the tragedy of so few in the game. Game Freak, you bastards. Failure has carried the team so badly, he's the first to evolve into his final form, Samurott. He definitely looks like that. He looks weird. I don't like it. The items on the ground are finally useful things that actually use, such as Ultra Balls and Max items. I would love to see these items in previous routes to offer greater rewards of exploration. Better late than never. Celestial Tower has this music to it that I cannot get out of my head. A mix of new Pokemon music and old creepy tracks like Lavender Town. Ladies and gentlemen, today is a sad day for all Agony fans because today is the day she is retired from the team and replaced by Mishap, the Litwick. I head back to Castella City because I remember a certain building known as the Battle Company that I forgot to go go through after Berg's gym. The building houses loads of trainers to fight for the rewards and items of XP, but the problem is I'm a bit overleveled, so I steamrolled through the whole thing and it was not a hard challenge at all. But I lied to you. I have an ulterior motive for coming here. It wasn't just XP, it was an EXP share held item. If held by a Pokemon in your party, they'll receive a fraction of XP from every fight, even if they're not fighting. It's an amazing item. This item is a must for saving time leveling Pokemon that have such low defense in later areas in the game, so I finally picked this bad boy up. A quick jog back to Celestial Tower, and we're back to the Pokemon Tower 2.0. No, seriously, this is almost an exact copy of Lavender Town's tower, with just some quality of life changes by placing nurses at the beginning of the floor. But I won't lie to you, I expected more creativity on Game Freak's part. I'm gonna sound like a broken record, but like, where is this in America? We finally reached the top where Skyla tells us to ring the undead church bell and no sick Pokemon arrives. Celestial Tower feels like the first filler location in Unova to me. Now before the 3 Celestial Tower fans get pissed, let me explain. In a world building argument, the tower feels like an excuse to add fire type Pokemon because adding a volcano next to Manhattan wouldn't be very realistic, now would it? You know what also isn't realistic? A castle. From a gameplay argument, this tower adds 0 ideas to the series and only slows the pace of the adventure being required to go to the top for no reason. Then you can fight the gym leader. It's just a place to level. If the place was optional, I wouldn't be criticizing it as harshly as I am now. We're back in Mistralton City to fight the gym leader for real this time. We're informed that rock, electric, and ice types are super effective against Skyla's flying type Pokemon. Let's remember where we entered the city from. Yeah, that's right, an electric cave. This amazing game design isn't just introduced for the 6th gym. Lenora has socks that lived outside of Pinwheel Forest. In front of Route 4, Darumaka's and Sandiles hid in the sand to counter Berg and Eleza. And Clay built his ground-type gym next to the ocean. This level of game design creates a smooth flow of gameplay that's only noticeable if you're looking for the answers of its design. I knew Vanity's rock slide could easily take out Skyla, but I wanted Vengeance to get some spotlight. She kept spamming hyper potions until Unpheasant, the 3rd worst looking Pokemon ever, defeats Vengeance. Vanity earns our 6th gym badge, right before heading up to Twist Mountain. Charon stops us for a mandatory story rival battle, and because we whip Charon's butt, the champion gives us the HM Surf that allows us to swim over water. Twist Mountain is a location I wish I could have explored more. It was winter when I traveled through Twist Mountain, and apparently, weather doesn't just affect visuals and Pokemon encounter rates, but entire accessible areas. Twist Mountain was nothing more than a generic cave to me because all the content was hidden away under 7 feet of snow. It got me wondering how much content I missed out on because it wasn't snowing. I understand creating more replay value by encouraging you to return to those previous areas, but when the player's first introduction to a place is a whole lot of nothing, why be compelled to return? Finally make it to Icarus City. I noticed mounds of snow piles creating pathways up to NPCs, items, dark grass, and even entire buildings. These seasonal changes to the environment are examples of positive intentions by Game Freak and illustrate a world that feels lived in and makes the experience of going through Icarus City way more memorable because in all honesty, this might be the smallest city, yet with 4 accessible buildings and a Poké Center. Arriving at Bryson's Ice-type gym, I can tell I'm going to struggle at this children's puzzle. It took a good 7 minutes to complete, and I think that's 5 minutes too long. At the beginning, I described Pokemon types like a game of rock, paper, scissors, but what I didn't tell you is that the Ice-type is the kid that never was invited to play. Ice-types are already at a disadvantage with it being weak to some of the most common physical moves such as rock, fighting, and steel, and with its overall lower defense, there's no match for an Ice-type to take a beating. Unless the opponent uses Swagger. Swagger sharply raises the opponent's attack, but in doing so, confuses them. Fun fact about confusion, there's a 50% chance you will become lost in confusion and damage yourself while losing your entire turn without attacking. For 1 to 4 turns. This bear tick dodged my only attack, hit the Swagger on me, I lost the coin flip twice, then got hit with Brine, which ended mishaps 1 minute of spotlight, I'm sorry. Failure did take the win by pure defense against those Brines and get another lucky Scald burn on Bryson's Cryogal. Team Plasma constructed a bridge to enter Dragon Spiral Tower, the famous Manhattan tourist attraction. As soon as we walk in, we're greeted to the contender of worst designed Pokemon in history, Dredagon. This disgusting, crayon, fan art, half-assed draft somehow made it into the final game, and I will never understand how. I understand making 156 new Pokemon for one region is insanely hard to do, but how do you create such fantastically designed starters, an amazing Pokemon here or there, and end up with Girder? There are so many little Unovan stinkers that I can understand why someone would hate the game design choice of only Unova Pokemon available from looks alone. I finally reached the end. A sinister song begins as I approach the Twink, summoning Zekrom to defeat the Pokemon champion and claim his power as king. He states that Reshiram is the only way Zekrom could be defeated and believes we're the one that will attempt to stop him in the near future. The champion says the Dragon Stone lies in the Relic Castle, the only way we can summon Reshiram. Sweet, I'll just teleport. Oh right, I never went to it. Hey, you want to hear an awesome fun fact? The winged dragon Pokemon Drudagon can't learn the Fly TM. This is a subtle reference to it being a shit Pokemon. Relic Castle was definitely a place to be explored right after Route 4 with everyone being level 20 and all. But could you blame me for skipping this area? Instead, the Relic Castle is a hiker that gives us the option to take a fossil off her hands. The respective fossil you take will turn into a Pokemon that you get to keep. I grabbed the Plume fossil because I have insider knowledge on which one's better. I regret not picking this up 4 gym badges ago. A mixture of same-ish looking architecture, easy to get lost in, Team Plasma members here for some reason, and the random encounters stopping me every 5 feet felt like purgatory, I won't lie. If the level of the game is to get from point A to point B without any interesting narrative or gameplay rewards, you're just creating game length for no reason and wasting the player's time. We finally find the Lightstone and suddenly receive an urgent phone call from the professor telling us to head over to the museum in Arcane City. The gang says whoever has the stone is the one who will fight the Twink and Zekrom, so naturally the 10-year-old kid is ready to take on God. Misfortune that Archen is the last member of our permanent team. She has a unique ability called the Fetus, in which if your health drops below half, your stats are lowered by half. I swear she's worth it, just give it a minute. After grinding, I decided to code some rare candies into my save file. I believe this is purely a time saver regarding my severely underleveled 25 Pokemon and has no effect on my critique of the game design. If anything, this reveals potential issues of changing your team in the latter half of the game, with no post-game grinding methods available yet, resulting in a huge grind slog ruining the pace of the game. At level 37, Misfortune evolves into her final form, Archeops, and taught her the HM Fly. Finally, the Route 8 Lake, which is really hard to say, reminded me that I've not received a fishing rod this entire playthrough. I did some quick searching on the World Wide Web to discover that you receive it in the post-game. This disappointment and the lack of anything interesting in Route 8 has compelled me to declare this route as the worst so far. As soon as I exit the bridge to Route 9, this baseball player throws me a TM. Notice how I said baseball player for the first time in this video. Imagine, instead of the random ice-type gym, there could be a baseball stadium, and on every pitch is a trainer, and the home base is the gym leader. That is the coolest thing. What about a basketball court participating in rotation battles, and depending on how many Pokemon faint on each sports team, and you get like a special potion or helpful item or something along the lines of that right before the final gym battle. That is the coolest thing of all time. And the basketball gym would be Dark type. Route 9's got the exact same Pokemon that Route 5 did. It made me hate this game more. Depending on what version you're playing, this place will look drastically different. Black going for a more futuristic look, and white having an old antique feel to it. I personally like white's aesthetic a lot more than black's. This gym is by far the most creative and visually impressive gym in all of Pokemon history, which that's just a sad fact. You climb the giant backs of black and white dragons, jumping on floor buttons, rotating the necks of them while fighting trainers, and the dragon typing of the gym is no joke. In Generation 5, the only dragon type weakness were ice and dragon. Ice types have a track record of awful defensive stats, contrasting dragon's overall high offensive. But who cares if your team has the goat that is Misfortune carrying with acrobatics? Route 10, the last route on our journey before Victory Road. It feels like one big goodbye with the variety of familiar and new Pokemon to fight and catch, and actual challenging fights to show how far you've came. The little talk you have with Chair and Bianca feel like one last goodbye before moving away. The music combining with the heartfelt dialogue got me genuinely a little sad that the playthrough was coming to an end. I'm very impressed on how Game Freak handled the rivals in this entry in the series, making me, a grown man, a bit sad seeing them saying goodbye. That's some powerful stuff right there, and I don't think that could have happened without the music. And I don't think I've talked about the music enough. The famous Route 10 theme makes the entire sequence that much harder to stomach. Its chord progression feels familiar, yet unknown, much like the journey through Unova itself. I've mentioned time and time again that this region feels a little too samey, but that familiarity is what kept me coming back. It was the feeling of comfort knowing the next route will have fun new things to find, yet stay in its linear, quirky Unova style. And you know what? I'll say it, by the end, I enjoyed Unova's route design. And like a final scene in the movie, Mishap evolves into her final form, right before the Elite Four. Victory Road is a genuine endurance test with its challenging trainers and insanely high counter rate in the caves you traverse through. The optionally difficult pathways to item rewards are highly worth your time considering it's the last few you'll receive. Pokemon like Deino and Rufflet are finally available after all this time. There is no excuse on why Rufflet is locked this far behind the game, but Deino is a different story. A pseudo-legendary is a fan term for powerful non-legendary Pokemon that have near-legendary stats. Each region has one of these beasts, and this honor goes to Deino. Or it would, if it didn't evolve at level 64. You might think some grinding won't be an issue, but I forgot to mention pseudo-legendaries have a decreased XP gain to keep them balanced because you're supposed to find them midway through your journey. I do not understand how this got passed, but I'm not using them. I heal my Pokemon at this conveniently placed Poke Center, get my team to a flat level 50, and take on the greatest challenge yet, the Elite Four. Chatel, the Ghost-type member, begins by throwing her Configurus at me, and I test my luck with vengeance. But the battlefield is suddenly shook with Golurk stomping out of its Pokeball. I strategically swap to Failure and take advantage of its water weakness, but a strong Earthquake makes me hesitant to continue with Failure. I take the gamble knowing Golurk's HP and defense stats are through the roof, but somehow Failure KOs the Titan. Chatel's Jellicent ruins my plans to use Failure by knowing Energy Ball, so I decide to use the good old Calamity strategy. After 2 full restore stalls, her Jellicent falls to Calamity, but my victory is short-lived with a fire type sent out. I for some reason swap Vanity in, killing her in 1 turn. I never claimed to be good at this game. Failure Skull defeats Chandelure in 2 turns, and that's the first member done. Grimsley, the dark type member, starts with Scrafty, which Misfortune handles, but not until his Bisharp uses Metal Claw and leaves her at 1 HP. Inferno does the job and incinerates his ass. Grimsley's Crocodile is a roadblock for many, but without his overpowered ability Moxie, it's no match for it. Failure, come on! By sheer determination, Calamity yet again comes in clutch, wasting his full restores and eventually defeating him. Last but least was his loser Lipard. Next, I wake up Caitlyn, the Psychic type member, for her nap to challenge her. Vengeance used Crunch and did enough damage to take down Reuniclus with no effort at all, but the next opponent was a different story. Caitlyn's Sigilif's power and my stupid plays caused half my team to faint because of my mistakes. Misfortune's Ancient Power took it out after a few turns. Gothitelle, my sworn enemy, and Musharana were handled by Vanity. Last one left. Marshall begins by throwing out his fighting type Pokemon, I don't know his name, but I planned for this. I lead with Misfortune to take advantage of his team's weakness to flying types, but he took advantage of my weakness, lack of research. He used Stone Edge, a super effective move, nearly ending Misfortune's life in 1 turn. Sock is up next, and I'm worried this might be the end. I chanced my luck by switching to Mishap to land an Inferno, and with sheer luck, Sock misses his Stone Edge and gets burned by my fire move. My other sworn enemy nearly shatters the fighting area with his 2 cement cylinders. A lucky paralysis and Spark ends his shitty designed ass prematurely. We make our way up to the champion's domain to dish out one last fight, until... it's time to storm End's castle and take back the Unova we fought so hard to protect. This plot point is a reference to the January 6th Capitol riot. I waste no more time and sprint to End and throw out the Lightstone. We summon the coolest legendary and catch him first try. Let's beat this twink. The 2 legendaries stand facing each other with both abilities overtaking each other in power. Calamity gets killed with a lucky crit and Vanity cleans up Caracosta with an Earthquake. Kling Klang's illusion wears off, showing its true form, Zora. But the Team Sweeper Vanity doesn't have time for any games. The shit-ass Ice Cream Cone kills Mishap because of 2 missed Infernos and outspeeds Apocalypse, the legendary, killing him with a Blizzard. Vanity gets an Earthquake off before the bitch-ass dessert does any more damage to my party. Another Earthquake to Kling Klang's KOs him for good, leaving the scariest Pokemon last. If I can get End's Archeops to half health, the fight is over. After some cheese potion stalling, we win. End reflects on the first time he met us in Accumula Town, and how our Pokemon said it liked me and wanted to stay. He couldn't believe Pokemon could ever like someone and how it contradicted every belief he was taught in his life, and this is why he kept battling us. The credits played and we're back in our hometown where it all began. Sharon and Bianca are outside discussing their plans to venture farther through Unova, and our Pokedex was upgraded to National Mode, unlocking the other 493 Pokemon in the Pokedex. But my Unova journey is finished. In the end, I don't regret revisiting Unova at all. It stands out as one of the last Pokemon games with a strong sense of passion behind them, and the lessons it teaches are effective for all ages. The linear game design might be perfect, no game is, but it's hands down one of the best adventures you can experience. I know I've taken up a lot of your time already, but I hope to see you in the next video. Have a great one.